Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my NetDuma R3 full setup video. I'm fighting a cold, so if I sound a little funny or I stumble, please excuse me. Alright, so the very first thing we need to do is set up our modem by powering it down, disconnecting our old router, and then we're going to put the new R3 in its place, power the modem first, let that get all of its lights, then we're going to connect our cable to the back of the R3, and then power the R3. Wait a couple minutes for all the lights to come on, and then whether you're on mobile or desktop, dumaos 4 is friendly for setup on both. So I'm using desktop, but for those of out there who have just mobile, you can use that as well. We're going to go to 192.168.77.1, and that's going to bring us to our initial begin setup page. We can click begin setup, and we're going to see if we have an internet connection. We do. We can go into advanced settings if need be, but there shouldn't be any need to. We'll click continue. NetDuma wants your soul. No, I'm kidding. Legal stuff. You can read through it if you want and continue. All right, so of course, we've got to set up our Wi-Fi, set up something familiar, and passwords and such. I leave it as NetDuma R3. And then, of course, we have our auth, so we got to set that up as well. And then we'll go ahead and save both of those. And that is going to go ahead and save our overall auth for both Wi-Fi and desktop. Then we're going to go ahead and go in and type our new auth so we can get into the router. And we have internet. Moving on. So we can go back through the setup if there were any issues, but there weren't any issues, so we can continue. All right, so anybody familiar with the dumaos speed test knows that, well, throughout the years, it hasn't been too accurate. They have mostly fixed it. I would say 99% of the time, it gives you the right speeds when you do a test. If you have a lot of people on, or even during this first setup, sometimes it can be a little low. Generally speaking, a test later on, or just testing again tends to work. So I'm a little low on my download. Let's just test again and see if it pops it up where it should be. No big deal either way. Of course, you can put your own bandwidth there if need be. But again, way more accurate than previous versions. I think they're actually using a new speed test. So yeah, you can see the second test is actually catching my real speeds. So compared to the old dumaos versions where it would fail and fail and fail and pretty much never show you the correct speeds, generally speaking, if you test once and it ain't right, you can test again and it works. We're going to go ahead and apply those settings. Now, what's great about dumaos 4 is they've streamlined everything. And while we're going through this setup video, and going through all the features, I'll show you some really cool stuff that they've done that allows you to really dig in if you want to, but you don't have to anymore. So anybody familiar with old dumaos versions know about the flower and the congestion control and setting up gaming priorities, and it's a headache. You can play one day and it's freaking great. You're having a great day. It's amazing. It's smooth as butter. You're enjoying yourself. Then you got to go to work for a few days. You got life. You got things to do. And then it's the weekend. I got some free time. You go to play. Oh man, it's playing like, what do I need to do? Do I adjust this slider or that slider or wah? No more of that. You say, I want gaming, video streaming, and work from home. And of course, you've got some other stuff here, cloud gaming, live streaming, file sharing. I only use gaming, video streaming, and work from home. So we're just going to leave those three. Of course, do what works for you and play around with the system. So now we have our overall priorities. We have our top priority. If we're gamers, we want gaming to be the top priority. Then, as you can see, it prioritize work from home next, and then video streaming. That is all fine. Now we're going to go ahead and do ping optimizer. When you are doing initial setup here, it's only going to do it for the download. That's generally fine, as most people's upload doesn't have much buffer bloat. This is something people have already been asking about. What is buffer bloat like with the R3? I will be going into individual buffer bloat tests in future videos just for buffer bloat. But you can see here, the ping optimizer says, oh, hey, well, you got some ping problems here. Let's see if we can fix that. And it starts running through this test. This takes a few seconds, so I'm just going to skip to the end because otherwise you'll just keep watching the bar graph, which is nice, do its thing. All right, you can now see that my old ping was 21.5 milliseconds, and it's now been lowered to the new 15.4. Sweet, we can click Optimize Now. Now we get into some of the RGB stuff. This router, of course, has RGB, and you can do some cool things with it. You got customizations. I will not be showing each and everything. I kind of want you guys to experiment. Let me know what your favorite stuff is. But we're going to go over to the animation side, and you get all these different animations, right? My favorite one is Ripple. I love Ripple, but I also like turning the animation speed way down. Reversing the animation looks pretty cool. But this is going to be, something that you guys are just going to have to play with and see if you want it on, want it off, etc. Which one you like. Again, Ripple being my favorite. And then we've got dynamic gaming lighting, which when you're gaming will make the R3 light up in a different way. And I think that's pretty cool. However, if you don't want it, you can turn it off. So, and of course you can go in and customize colors and all this other cool stuff. Let me know what you guys end up with. I just like the rainbow Ripple. All right, so moving on, we've got system theme, so it'll take the theme from the system you're using, or we can use light theme, or dark theme. That's better. Of course, ad blocker is still here, so we can now activate ad blocker. Some of us actually use an outside DNS service to block ads. I do. I'm actually now using Control D. I was using a service called NextDNS. They're basically the same. However, Control D is better. I have not yet gotten to making that video. It is in the docket to do at some point soon. Check out both services if you want another way to block ads and such outside of just what the router can do. All right, so now we got to set our home location for the Geo-filter. You can get very specific with this. You can be like, type in your town, and that's what you can do, and that'll be great. But for me, I live in Colorado, so I'm just going to type in Colorado. Of course, if I can type. My keyboard is very far away. All right, so I'm in Colorado, and we're just going to do Colorado, USA. Again, you can be more specific if you like. Continue. Now we've got all of our stuff, and we're ready to go to dumaos 4. Loading in for the first time. For anybody who watched my previous video, you'll already be familiar with the dashboard, but we'll run through it real quick. So this is your new home. It looks basically the same whether you're on desktop or mobile. Again, I am on desktop. There are a couple small differences, but not enough to even really point out. All right, so you got your good afternoon, and then right below that, you've got some buttons. You can see your upload and download for both smart activities and regular activities, and then on the left-hand side down here, you've got your prioritized traffic, and then on all other traffic. And you can see right here it says no activity. So if you're doing gaming, work, etc., all those things will now show up right here. And then we go over to the right, it'll show you how many minutes, seconds, hours you've done each type of activity, along with the overall usage for the day, our network speeds, ping optimizer, Wi-Fi, and RGB. It's very self-explanatory. I mean, you can just see what's going on. I really don't need to dig into it too terribly much. Next thing we need to do is go ahead and start booting up our other pieces of equipment. I like to start off with the consoles first and then move on to other pieces of equipment. So let's go ahead and go turn on our Xbox so that we can set up our Geo-filter and other types of quality of service so the Xbox has a smooth gaming experience. And this is going to work for all of your devices. I left the Xbox online for about an hour so you guys could see what traffic looks like as it starts to move around the main dashboard here. Moving on to the next feature, we have our Geo-filter. For those unfamiliar with the Geo-filter, this is the way we filter out bad game servers and peers. So players and servers that have really high ping, we don't want to connect to. Now upon initial setup, you guys saw that I chose my filtering location as Colorado because that's where I live. And so here on the Geo-filter page, it dropped a dot right here in the middle of Colorado and then put a circle around me. Anything inside of this circle, I will connect to. Anything outside of this circle, I will not. And depending on where you live and what servers and peers you want to play with, you're going to adjust this accordingly. There is another tool called Ping Heat Map that'll help you along the way, and I'll show you how to use that here in a minute. But this is also very customizable, so if you're like, man, I just want to play people right here in Colorado, and it's a peer-to-peer game, you can do that. If you know it's a server-based game and it's not too far away from you, you have all sorts of adjusting you can do here with your main circle, but you can also come over here to custom mode and really get down to the nitty-gritty. So for me, I happen to know there is a Call of Duty server over here in Washington. So I can draw a shape around Washington, and boom. Anytime I want to play Call of Duty, it's going to connect to that server over there, and then nothing outside. So no other servers, just this one. And of course, I always choose more than one server. That way the games can, jump around a little bit if need be. All right, so top left-hand corner, you can add your device, and to the right of that, you see Study Ping. This is something that NetDuma has been working on for years, and it studies your ping in-game. I'll show you how that works here momentarily. Moving on over, we have another place where we can add our devices, so let's go ahead and do that. Click Add Device, choose our Xbox Series X, and then click Finish. For those who have used previous Duma OS versions, you may be wondering, hey, where are all the other options, like what games to choose and etc. Those have all been streamlined. You don't need to worry about that anymore. Matter of fact, once you've set up your console like this, it is automatically being filtered. And this just works. You don't have to worry about it. You set your place with your custom or simple over here. You turn on your filter. You're good to go. You no longer have to turn off your filter in between different games, which is really awesome. All right, so the next thing we need to do is actually take a look at our custom settings, which are up here in the top right-hand corner. So we drop down this little drop-down menu and we get some more custom settings underneath settings. But we also have some other options. Resync Cloud. This will resync the Geo-filters cloud to the NetDuma cloud service, getting the latest server information for the servers that you're playing games on. So if you have a game that's being a little weird, it might be that you need to resync your cloud. Try that first. Of course, Feature Tour runs you through all the features. Legend will show you the legend for everything so you can understand what's going on here. And then Help. All right, so let's get into the settings here. We click our settings menu, and right up top, you're going to see Geo Latency Recommended. Reduce the risk of being disconnected from the game by using latency-based filtering method. This is the thing you want on if you're playing games like Halo, which stopped working with the Geo-filter a couple years ago. That has all been fixed now, and so you leave this on if you want to play Halo or any of those other games that had previously stopped working. For a long time, those of us with Duma OS routers have asked for Ping Assist to be upgraded, and they finally did it. Ping Assist is a way to get servers or players, outside of your circle or your custom settings. So let's say, for example, I want to allow people who have 50 milliseconds or less. So anywhere from 0 to 50, I can do that. So anything from 0 to 50 milliseconds outside of my circle, I will now connect to. But I can narrow that down even more. I'm nowhere close to 0 milliseconds. Nobody is, especially as at a base ping. You probably start off maybe at 5 or 10, right? For me, I know that's about 15. So anywhere from 15 to 50 milliseconds outside of this circle, well, however I draw it, and same with your custom thing. So 15 to 50 milliseconds outside of this, it will also connect to, giving you way more customization for your geo-filtering options depending on what games you're playing and all of that good stuff. For me, I tend to leave the ping assist off because I know the locations of the games that I want the servers to and etc. And so I just draw shapes or just use my circle. But ping assist works really well now. One thing I will note, if you want to play with people worldwide, you have a game, you're like, it's a party game, I'm playing with people from Australia and Japan, and I got friends all over the world. Of course, you can turn off your geo latency, and of course, you can turn off your overall filtering and connect to everybody like you normally would, and you'll still see the ping in game. All right, moving on, we have Ping Heat Map. Ping Heat Map is back and it's better than ever. For those unfamiliar, this is the way you find those servers to the games you're playing. So Apex Legends, Call of Duty, etc. And so you give it a click and it's going to say, oh, look, my best server for Apex is in Iowa and at 22 milliseconds. And then you can run through where it, all of them, which is really, really awesome. And then you can just come over here and say, okay, well, I happen to know, again, there's some servers over here for Apex. What about Call of Duty? And you can start kind of narrowing things down and drawing shapes and using your circle to figure out what's going to work for the games that you play. So that's how you kind of mix those two things together, figure out where those servers are, locations are, and then you do that. Come back to your filter, draw your shapes, set your circles, you're good to go. SmartBOOST is NetDuma's new quality of service system. They've listened to years of feedback and made everything just work. For anybody familiar with quality of service, it could be a real hassle. Whether you're on a previous dumaos router, an XR500, 1000, a NetDuma R2, you've been there. You play one day, everything is great, and you're like, man, this is fantastic. It's smooth. I'm enjoying myself. Then you got to go to work for a few days. You live life, and then you come back, go to play, and it's miserable. Bullets aren't registering. Combos are dropping in your favorite fighting game, and you don't want to go back and mess with your quality of service. Well, now you don't have to. When you were doing that initial setup and you said, I wanted gaming, work from home, and video streaming, it just works. But there's a lot more going on here. So we have our 3 main priorities. We want gaming up top. That way it always has the best time when we're gaming. We'll head over here to devices, and we can now add devices as well. So we're going to add our Xbox Series X to also be prioritized at top priority, so that when my Xbox Series X comes on and it's gaming, it'll say, okay, it's on, it is now gaming. Give every bit of priority to the Xbox Series X over everything else. If we come over here to the drop-down menu in the top right-hand corner, there's some options. We'll go through them. We have our main profile, which is the profile we are on right now. We can add a new profile and really get creative, start adding our own little flavor to quality of service. We can manage those profiles. We can look at stats, which is something that is very important when it comes to this new quality of service. We can start a feature tour, which will walk us around each thing and how it all works. Look at our overall settings and ask for help if need be. Let's start off up top with our primary profile. This is the profile we're currently using that comes stock with dumaos. We added our gaming, work from home, and video streaming. We've also added the Xbox Series X. But you will notice whether I'm on devices or activities, there's this little drop-down menu, weird, cool-looking thing here. You click this and you can start adding different reservations for different things. So we could choose the Xbox Series X, then we can choose, like Apple TV or any of these things. And we can really get down to the nitty-gritty. But we don't need to. NetDuma is actually taking care of all of that headache for us. Yay! So if we come back over here to the drop-down tab, and we come over here to Stats for Nerds, this is where it's going to break down all of our traffic, everything that's prioritized, everything that's just under best effort, and you can see what is going on. So my UDM Pro is getting some packets when it comes to Amazon, Google, Microsoft, etc. And you can see all of these things. And now when I boot into a game, you will see that traffic being prioritized here. You can see exactly how much traffic is being prioritized, what kind of quality of service it has, whether it's Wi-Fi multimedia, the DSCP tag, etc. We will take a look at how that all looks here in a moment when it comes to Xbox. All right, so there is more to go over. You can come in here and you can really get into that nitty-gritty stuff with making a new profile, getting some icons going, setting colors, all of that stuff. And I'm sure a lot of you will start messing with that. However, you don't really need to. And I wouldn't say don't, but unless you're a tinkerer, why give yourself the headache? And so for me, even though I do like tinkering, this is my basic setup. I like it and it works really, really well. And if you want to tinker, you want to do those extra reservations for certain types of bandwidth and try different priorities, go for it. Everything's been very solid for me. All right, right below the new quality of service is our network activity, which is also on the main dashboard, but it gives you more of a breakdown of what's going on for each network. Below that is our device manager, where we can come in here and say, oh, we need to change the Xbox or whatever. We can block the internet from it, etc. And then below that is ad blocker, which we want to turn on. But if we want a device pause because there's a problem with it or something's going on, we can come through here and pause each device to see if ad blocker is blocking something it shouldn't. For me, it's been pretty good throughout the years. Speed test. Let's go back. You can come and you can do your speed test again if it wasn't accurate when you were doing your first setup. Of course, you can click advanced and dig in here and actually set it yourself if need be. And then last but definitely not least, when it comes to main features, is our ping optimizer. And as I mentioned, when you're doing the initial setup, it's only going to do it for the download side of things. You can see upload ping has not been messed with at all. And to do that, we're going to come over here to the advanced tab, and we're going to switch from simple to expert. And that's going to go ahead and make sure that it does it for both download and upload at the exact same time. And then as we scroll down, we have some new options. All right, so congestion control mode. You guys are probably familiar with this. When you start gaming, the auto mode will automatically adjust your congestion control so that you don't have buffer bloat and your games are smooth. You can also keep this always on, or if you happen to have incredibly low latency, you can use this as well. Again, not recommended, as you can see here. One thing that has been a big bummer for people over the years is speed testing. You go to do a speed test and you're like, why are my speeds low? What's going on, bud? Well, it's probably because you're throttled using your congestion control, which is still here. But with speed test bypass, oh, that's a mouthful. Speed test bypass. Anyway, with that, you can now bypass this. And so when you're adjusting here on the router and you go to do a speed test, it's still going to give you your full speeds. So you go to Ookla, speedtest.net or whatever. Any of those will give you full speeds. But if you're doing buffer bloat testing, not only here on the router, but also on another website such as Waveform, you can turn this off and then make sure they match up. And make sure that, your download and upload are where they actually need to be, double checking what dumaos says is the best connection. But in my experience, everything's been very solid with just letting dumaos figure it all out. All right, so that's all the ping optimizer stuff. You can hop in and optimize all your ping. Now we need to get into settings, and really, this is pretty self-explanatory. We've got our Wi-Fi, guest Wi-Fi, and RGB controls. If you need to adjust anything here, you can. You can click on advanced and go in and do all the fancy things, but in my humble opinion, there's really no need to. Of course, you could set up guest Wi-Fi if need be. We've got our RGB controls, which you guys saw at the very beginning. All of those are here. Our overall appearance. Again, there are going to be more themes in the future. We've got our light, we've got our dark, but more stuff is coming. Internet rules, we could set up rules for each individual thing. Hybrid VPN, unfortunately, it is not quite ready yet. And so if you are using a VPN and really need use of it, they are working on it. They're very well aware of this, and it is something that will be fixed very shortly. LAN, you can do all your LAN stuff here if need be. WAN, you can do all your WAN stuff here if need be. DHCP, if you need to reserve your console, we could do that by clicking add rule and then click your Xbox or your console and then save. That's going to go ahead and reserve the IP address for your consoles. I suggest you do this for all your gaming consoles. It really isn't necessary for other devices, but when it comes to gaming consoles, I always recommend reserving your IP address. UPnP is there, and I haven't had any problems with it. Depending on your setup, you might. UPnP has always been one of those things, doesn't matter what router you have, where it can be wonky. In my experience, everything has been good. You could see that it's port forwarded my Xbox with no problem. But if you run into issues, you can turn off UPnP. You still have your port forwarding and your device DMZ. So if you need to DMZ your Xbox or PlayStation, etc., or add certain port forwarding rules, those are all there. Static routes is there if you need it. And then you've got your basic system info, which tells you what's going on within dumaos. All very simple stuff. All right, now we've got to swing all the way back around, and I want to do this live. I'm going to grab my Xbox controller and head on into Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Alright, so we've loaded into a team deathmatch on Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. We scroll in a little ways here. You can see I have a controller marker here in Illinois with a ping at about 40 milliseconds, and it is being stabilized by Study Ping. Now, Study Ping doesn't necessarily work with every single game, but if your game doesn't work, you can always ask NetDuma to add it to their list. For the games where Study Ping works, it makes a significant difference because it's now stabilizing your ping, keeping it as smooth as possible. But what about quality of service overall? I mean, without quality of service doing anything, well, you're probably still going to have a bad time. You can see there's some video streaming going on, but of course I have Modern Warfare 3 going and gaming is right up top and turned on. If you look over here to the left, you can see my gaming and video streaming activity being prioritized on both up and download. And of course, there's no other activities going on. But where those real secret sauce is, where you get to know what is going on with each individual device, is back up top, Stats for Nerds. We come over here to Stats for Nerds once again, and we can see what's going on with Call of Duty on our Xbox Series X at a download rate of 800 kilobits. See, that's quality of service already taken care of for you. You can see your bytes and your packets, your internet, and your quality of experience. For anybody who's on Wi-Fi, it's already doing the Wi-Fi multimedia for you and giving you the best out of that. And for anybody who's ever wondered about the DSCP tags within Xbox, those are now just being used within dumaos. You don't have to turn those on Xbox or PlayStation, whatever. However, you can. And you can see that it's now being prioritized right here up top. So my Call of Duty is being prioritized, but of course there's other things going on in the house as well, and I do have them on the priorities list, so those are being prioritized as well. And that's where you can come in and you can really see what's going on with each individual thing. And again, if you want to, you can come all the way back over here and start going mad by adjusting your own stuff. But there's really no need to, because NetDuma is taking care of all of it for you. So that's it, everybody. That is the full setup video for the NetDuma R3. There have been a lot of questions over the last couple days. I am doing my best to answer them all. If you have any, please leave them in the comment section down below. And until the next time, as always, take it easy.